It is a pleasure for me to introduce this panel and also to talk about Ruth Shaw, who I've had the privilege of knowing for the last 8 years. Ruth not only embodies everything that we think of and we want in a leadership, but she lives it every day. So when you think of a bio, when you think of things to talk about, let me tell you what I'm not going to tell you. So I am not going to tell you that Ruth has been on the board of multiple organizations, including Dow Chemical. She's currently on DTE Energy, SPX Technologies, and Southwire. I'm not going to tell you those things. I'm not going to tell you she's been president of multiple colleges, universities in her tenure. I'm not going to tell you that she's been the president and CEO of Duke Energy. I'm not going to tell you that she's been a leader in her organizations and in her communities, because those are things that Ruth has done. I am going to tell you what is Ruth Shaw. And Ruth is really excellence personified. She's an individual that walks into a room and you want to sit and talk with her and learn from her. She has a phenomenal amount of information, knowledge, and experience. I also want to tell you she truly stands for the things that she represents. When you think about sustainability, Ruth has been on the Southwire board since 2007, and she really does have the hallmark of what we do from a sustainability perspective. She's been a champion for many of our goals, including our zero landfill goals and our current goals for the organization. Even more so, and as we celebrate Women's History Month and the theme, which is embracing equity, I want to let you know that Ruth truly has embodied that. She has stood in front of the board and the management team, championing our efforts on diversity, on equity, and inclusion. She has been there as we have recruited additional directors to make sure that diversity was a critical component of what we looked for. She's been there to ask the tough questions. What are we doing on succession planning to increase our diversity? What are we doing to help individuals to feel included in this organization? And what are we doing to continue to bring Southwire into where it needs to be as one of the best corporations in the entire US and in the world? It is not by short regard that her leadership with Southwire has helped us to be where we are today. I also wanted to introduce two other people who get the privilege of doing rapid fire questions with Ruth. Charlie Murrah, the EVP, who heads up all things supply chain and metals, and Brandon Moss, who has helped shape our tools business and helped to bring it to where it is today. So I know I'm going to be very much entertained by this presentation. I am looking forward to it. I hope you have come with questions, because this is your time to ask those. So I turn it over to this team.
Thank you, Bert.
Great, thanks, Bert. So we've got about 20 minutes for this portion of the agenda. Ruth, I'm the opener, Brandon's the closer. So I'm going to throw a softball here to get started.
That's really
and these
scary.
these things get progressively more difficult. So just prepare yourself here.
Try me, buddy.
Okay. All right, here comes that softball. So what advice would you give to those in our group who are interested in building their leadership skills?
Well, I think the best advice is to be self-critical, be self-aware. What skills are you lacking? What are the strengths you need to build on? I mean, I really do think that leaders who begin to lose their self-awareness, who lose a sense of here's what I'm really good at, I need to bolster here, That's when I think you go down that slippery slope and become one of those leaders who sucks all the air out of the room when you walk in it. And we've all seen those. They're not good people to work with. They're not good people to work for. So that's really what I'd say is start with a critical self-assessment. If you were lucky enough to work in a place where you have a supervisor who's giving you feedback on your leadership skills, take that feedback to heart. You may feel like some of it's wrong, some of it's not accurate, but look for the grain of truth. At least over all the years I've been doing it, most of the time when I've gotten tough feedback that I wanted to disagree with, if I thought about it a little while, there was something to learn. So try to learn from it and then work on it. I mean, if you want to improve your leadership skills, improve your leadership skills. This is not magic. You know, it really is something you can do, and it doesn't depend on personality. You don't have to be the most charismatic person in the room to be an outstanding leader. So that used to be one of the myths of leadership, but I think it is a myth.
Ruth, as Charlie promised, these are going to get more difficult now. I have a two-part question.
Well, that alone sets me up.
So, first part, since you began your career, what positive changes have you seen for women in the workforce? And then second, is there an issue today that is still very prevalent impacting women that you think needs to change?
Wow, how much time have you got?
13 minutes.
Well, we've got 18, but...
Well, let me start with the first one about what has changed. And I mean, you've got to remember, I just turned 75 last week. I had been working a long time. I started working when I was, 14 or 15 for money. So, and I never stopped except for taking a few months out to have both of my children. But other than that, right down the road. So, the biggest change, we had a lunch today with women executives, VPs and above here. And when I came to Southwire in 2007, it would have been me in an empty room. And that's absolutely true. And what's worse or more revealing is nobody thought that was much of a problem. You know, we had plenty of vice presidents. They all just looked, and I won't say acted, but they all looked just alike. Diversity wasn't at all a priority or anything that we thought about in terms of the quality of our leadership and how it affected leadership within a company. Though there have now been any number of studies that really do show that results improve, the output of a team improves when you do have diverse perspectives at a table. And I'm a real believer in that because I don't think it's any better with all women at a table than it would be with all men. It's not that one perspective is better than another. It's just when you share those different views on an issue, I think you come out with a better answer. So there have been huge strides in almost every, when we think about, let's call it 50 years, just to be easy on me here, that I've got a career of 50 years. The changes have been enormous. I mean, who's graduating from professional schools these days? You all know the numbers as well as I do. I mean, they've shifted dramatically. And the numbers have shifted in the workplace too. Now, some workplaces have been slower than others, and the particular sector in which we're working, i.e. manufacturing, and very specifically the electrical industry in manufacturing, has been one of the slower areas to move. And that's no surprise. The business that I was in terms of the electric utilities, also slow to change, but changing. Lynn Good, who's the CEO of Duke Energy today, is one of the largest utilities in the country. And she's one of the most powerful leaders in the country. So a lot has changed. That couldn't have been dreamed of at the time that I started. So lots of changes. But what still needs to change? Well, a lot more. Anybody who think there actually is equity in the workplace hadn't looked around very hard lately. It's just not there. It's not there in wages today. In fact, it's funny, I was thinking about this since this is a special week and a special day for women. When I came to Charlotte in 1986 to be president of Central Piedmont, the first speech I gave in the city was on Women's Equality Day. And one of the things I talked about was the wage gap between men and women because it was, I if I'm not mistaken, then women were earning 79 cents for every dollar a man made. Do you know what it is today? 82 cents. Women earn 82 cents for every dollar a man makes. A big reason for that is the jobs that we choose and the jobs that we select. And we, when I say we, I mean the Southwire family, we are lucky enough to work in a sector that pays very well and that unfortunately not many women are in. If more women sought the jobs that some of you have or some of you aspire to, they'd be doing much better. Women in manufacturing earn close to 20% more than women in other fields. I mean, it is not an insignificant difference. So if you have daughters, and I'm saying this to men and women, if you've got daughters, sisters, friends, get them to take a look at the opportunities here. Manufacturing generally used to have a reputation as work that was hard, it was dirty, it was hot, and it required a lot of brute strength. Now, all across the country, the same thing's happening. Business companies are automating, they're digitizing. All of a sudden, what counts a lot is what's between your ears, not how many pounds you can press. So it is a different world, and it's a world that is going to be very open to women. It's going to be very open to gender diversity. So I think there's still going to be a lot of changes there. And I don't mean to diminish the absolute hostility that people of difference, and I'll use that word as opposed to gender or ethnicity, because it applies either way. If you show up as the only whatever in the room and people give you a hard time, and you know what? They're going to give you a hard time. It's just, they are. If you can't handle it, you need to somehow take some easy steps to being able to handle it, because there's no way to make that phase easy. But you know what's even harder? Not making any money, not making enough money to live on. To me, that's even harder. What's that old line? It's hard at the top, lonely at the top, but it's lonely at the bottom too. Well, you know, just get with it and do the kind of work that can take good care of you, take good care of your family, offer a lot of opportunities for advancement. The other good thing, in addition to the automation, it may be the only good thing that came out of COVID, but you know what COVID taught us? We can be flexible with schedules. You know, it is just amazing what we can do if we want to. There's no rule about how long a shift is, buddy. You can make shifts work for all kinds of schedules if you want to. There are all kinds of work, not all kinds on the manufacturing floor for sure, but all the jobs in a manufacturing company aren't on the factory floor. There are lots of other jobs. There are jobs you can do partially remotely. The qualifications are changing in a way that's removing barriers for people of difference. So and I think those things need to change. And next, if I come back, if I get invited back when I'm 85, I'd hope I'll see at least twice as many people in that room, maybe 3 times. I think y'all have got some momentum now. So,
true to form, Ruth, you're making it easy on us. You've led right into the next question. So, how did you pursue your professional goals while maintaining work-life balance in the years that you worked? And as a follow-up to that, would you do anything different, and certainly anything different given the flexibility and conditions of today?
That's such a good question. And again, I think the work-life balance issue is more acute for women because we have a societal expectation that women are going to assume a greater part of the things that have to do with child care and household care, taking care of the house and taking care of the kids. So balance really gets to be tough. A ton of it depends on your partner, you know, and I got lucky enough, second time around, but who's counting, to get a good one. And we agreed from the outset. He liked to cook. He was a great cook. I hated it. He could care less about anything ever being cleaned up. I was a little manic about that. But anyway, we worked things out so that it really was a partnership, and it worked. And every family, every relationship has its own solutions to those issues. But that's one way you get balance. Another way you get balance is some way or the other to get help. My help often came in the form of my mother, who was just, she loved being near her grandchildren, and so when she could help, she helped. Later on, when I made more money, I could afford to get help. And I found women at daycare centers. I mean, those people are incredible, and they make so little money. It's sad how little we value that work. It's true for teachers, too. But anyway, I won't pretend I ever had balance, so don't think I'm representing myself of having been in balance. I did manage to, pop out 2 sons, and I've got 4 grandchildren, so I may give the appearance of having done all that. But once you got them, you got them. You've got to do something with them. Isn't it true? You got to do something with it. So, it worked out. But it's a challenge for everybody. And, men too. People act like men don't have any issues, but I've seen plenty of people come in with spit up on their shirts and, other stuff. Life happens.
Ruth, since you've served on the board at Southwire, what changes have you seen in respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Well, they've been enormous, because when I came here, I'm not sure those words had actually been mentioned in these hallways. It just wasn't anything anybody thought about, and somebody Guyton, you've been here all that time. I mean, we didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about it in the boardroom, didn't talk about it anywhere. There was kind of a passive sort of acceptance about this, this is the way things are. It's okay. It's really not broke, so let's not fix it, which is a classic attitude toward things like that sometimes. So the change has been enormous. I mean, here we are today. This company has got initiatives all around us that are beginning to help advance efforts to bring forward minorities, women, people with disabilities, veterans, you name it, all sorts of diversity into the workforce. And it's interesting, not only are we doing that, but people in this general profession are doing that as well. The electrical contractors. Now, how many women electrical contractors do you think there are? Not many. Well, I don't know. So if you think I know, you're wrong. I don't know. But I know there are not many. But they are beginning to make a real effort to get the few who are there together to create a network. Networks do matter. To have a community of people who are interested in and knowledgeable about the same things you are. In fact, the women electrical contractors had their first meeting ever in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Georgia's sort of a hotbed of some of the activities going on. Is anybody in here familiar with the name Tanya Hicks? Anybody know who Tanya Hicks is? Everybody in here ought to know who Tanya Hicks is. She lives in Atlanta. She is an African-American woman who's the founder and CEO of a company called Power Solutions. And you need to have her come in and talk to one of your groups. She was featured in the New York Times, I think it was 2020, when she went in to talk about how she had made her way as an electrician. She first became an electrician. How many women do you think are electricians? What percentage? Anybody have a clue what percentage of electricians are women? It's a little over 4%, 4.4%. It's very, very low. But Tanya Hicks just decided, this is a job women can do. And you know what? Of course they can. You don't have to be, the strongest guy in the room to be an electrician. So she became one. She started her company. She's been extraordinarily successful, and she's right down the road. So she's been on TV shows. She's done a lot of stuff just because she did something that people didn't think she could do.
So to follow up with that, Ruth, with that up to current, if we look forward 10 years, what do you see or would you like to see for the electrical industry and Southwire as we look to the future?
I think I don't know the timeline exactly because, if I've been working 50 years, things have changed a lot, but there are too many things that are still the same. It's really too bad that there are still hostile workplaces, that you really do still have to deal with sexual harassment, that you have to deal with things like nooses left on lockers. And I'm sorry, this is real. This still happens today. So a lot has changed, but not everything has changed. And what I hope I see is that it really has, that we've come to just have a respect for each other as human beings and a recognition that we do better together, that all boats rise. And that's my simple assumption. That is just what I believe and what my experience has told me is true. I work better in a team that's not all women, Who am I going to pick on? So anyway, it's just the truth of the matter. So I believe we will see in a decade more progress toward a more inclusive, I won't say it'll be equitable, but more inclusive workplace. I do think we will see more women moving into jobs that pay better. I mean, women and men are pretty smart cookies. And I think when you begin to see, if I just did this job that requires me to press these buttons on this machine, as opposed to this job that keeps me here at this cash register, I could make 4 times the money. What am I going to do? I'm going to go make 4 times the money is what I'm going to do. So I think you're going to see a lot of change, and I think it will speed up as employers become more flexible with scheduling. And I think that not only did we learn from COVID that we could be more flexible, we're starting to come face to face with some of the problems of shortages in the workforce. And as this wave of retirements continues, we're going to keep on facing that. Now, hiring on a month-by-month basis is going to come and it's going to go, and it'll go up a little and down a little. But all in all, that wave of retirements is coming, and it's been written for years. So it is going to be there. And so I think employers will also be more flexible with scheduling, because you can make it happen.
Ruth, if you could give this group and the folks attending by video one piece of advice, what would that be?
Well, I'm going to repeat myself from the lunch that we had earlier, but it really is my best advice for almost anybody. And it is to be authentic, show your best self, but show up as you. You be you, with your warts and your idiosyncrasies and all. And that doesn't mean don't be respectful, don't be professional. Of course you should be those things. But be yourself. And for me, moving through different jobs and different levels of the organization, I mean, I'm a short, round Southern woman, and that is who I am. And, that's just it. I can't hide that. I can't be somebody else, and I don't try to be anybody else. When I defended my doctoral dissertation, which was many, many years ago, but I finished, and, I was feeling pretty good. I'd passed. I knew that. And they invite professors from everywhere to come in and observe the oral defense. And this guy I didn't know came up to me and said, I didn't understand one word you said, but I loved the way you said it. And I thought, what I might think of as disadvantages can be advantages. So you just remember that about yourself, and whatever your own repertoire of idiosyncrasies is, you'll be fine.
We've got a lot of folks here and also, again, attending via video. We would love to open it up for questions.
Well, they just about did me in, just like they said they would.
They're going to be tougher.
Yes, sir.
We've got a microphone coming your way, Tabres.
Thanks for sharing the experiences. I have a question. I'm Tabrez Malik, part of Infrastructure Division. So as you sit around different boardrooms, and if you have to think about comparing Southwire boardroom versus other companies, what are the couple of positive things and things which other companies can learn from Southwire? And then maybe a couple of things which Southwire can do better as well.
Boy, what a great question. Boardrooms are interesting, fascinating places, and usually pretty carefully guarded. You don't get to peek in to see what's going on in them very often. But I've been in a lot, and from Southwire, what people could learn is actually very easy. I think one of the most distinctive things about Southwire is that it's family-owned and that it has a longer-term view than any publicly owned company I think you could think of. There is a willingness to invest for the long term, to not be focused on what happens every single quarter and go, into paroxysms of anxiety if you don't hit the earnings a certain quarter. And believe me, that happens in plenty of companies. You will miss the analyst estimate of what your earnings are going to be, and the next thing you're laying off 2,000 people. So, I mean, it's real lives and real people, and it can be a very short-term view. And it is, I think this is a little less true now, but it can be very focused on only the bottom line. Southwire, from the time I joined the company, has always taken a fuller view. They've always have cared about more than the bottom line. Now, they care about that, don't get me wrong, but it's more than that, and it always has been. And the long-term view is the big difference. And, okay, what could we learn from other companies? I think and again, this Southwire is not the same company today that it was in 2007. There was a pretty long period when I thought we had a lot to learn about systems, about processes, about really moving into lean and getting lean to actually work. I think we are well down that road, and I'll give a nod of the head to Rich Stinson and his leadership around the whole system and process work. Because when he was hired, I thought that's what we needed most. I mean, we had a lot of financial success, but it was, I came from companies that had top-of-the-line systems and processes. That's how they worked. You had management systems, you had management processes, they fed you data, you made decisions based on the data, and now, I mean, it was a well-oiled machine. You just couldn't see that at Southwire. You can now. So it's been wonderful to see that happen. But I think there's more to learn there, no doubt about it. In fact, I don't know of a company, not a single company on whose board I've served, that couldn't learn some things from others. And that's one of the advantages of having the kind of board you've got, where many people serve on more than one board, or they work for a company where you can take learnings. And, well, Roy would tell you too, there's a lot of exchange and sharing that goes on from our board member who's a CEO at Milliken, for example, from Karen Carter, who's at Dow. So that happens a lot.
Hi, my name is Tonya Thomas, and I have a question in regards to training. Some of those areas that you say the women haven't really brought it off into, how do you feel about Southwire offering like training for us to maybe learn more about them, like electrician, wire, stuff like that?
Well, I think what Southwire is like, let me back up. I think there are a ton of opportunities for Southwire to get involved with programs to bring in people who are underrepresented in the workforce into new lines of work. I would think the focus might be initially on jobs here at Southwire, whether those are electrician jobs, whether they're jobs on the factory floor. I don't know where the biggest needs are. But I know, I've looked at the vacancy rates, I've looked at the turnover rates, so I know there are opportunities in this company, and I know there are plenty of them. I'll just mention what some other companies do, and they're not saying, Southwire, go do this. DTE, Energy, where I serve, the way to become a line tech, or a lineman, as they used to be called. We now try to call them line techs, and sometimes we do. But it starts with being a tree trimmer. That's how you move up the curve. You know what a line tech in Detroit makes a year? Just guess. 125 to 150, easy. And that's forget the overtime. I mean, that's what you make. So you don't make a lot of money as a tree trimmer. But you get started on that tree trimmer training, and you have got a path. I mean, it's a good one, and that's just one I'm mentioning. And they've created training programs for young people, Because they have a tough time getting people in some of these jobs. So they've done programs for young people. They've done program for what's now called returning citizens, but basically people who've been incarcerated and are returning to the workforce. Many of those people make excellent employees, and so they've created programs just for them. They're happy to have jobs. They are in jobs they perform very well. So they've done some really good things. Apprenticeships, kinds of jobs where you take a person who may already be a good employee but would like to learn another job. Hey, you've got people working for you today who are experts and who could easily train not just one other person, maybe a couple of other people to do their jobs. So I think there are all kinds of opportunities to do that sort of thing for a company like Southwire. And investing in people is a wonderful idea for any company these days. You're going to need them. You want to keep them, and you've got a great position in this community already in terms of reputation and so forth and so on. But you could be even better.
There's one up here, I think.
So I got two questions. I have one for my coworker and then one for me. From my coworker, what is a book that you would recommend that would help shape your leadership?
Well, again, everybody's different, and I don't presume that what was good for me would be good for you. I will tell you one that really shaped my leadership, and it's an old, well, why am I even saying that? Of course, it's an oldie goldie book. It's a book called Servant Leadership by a man named Robert Greenleaf, and I read it many, many, many years ago. But in terms of what has stuck with me about leadership, those are the lessons that have stuck with me. It's really, he does a lot of focusing on the leader, not so much as the boss, but the leader as the enabler of other people, the leader who brings out the best in those who are led, the leader who inspires people to give their very best to the work that's at hand. And I just took his lessons absolutely to heart. And I know for sure, some of them is just, but some of it sounds really simple, things like begin with the end in mind and that sort of thing. But I tell you from experience, the times that I have been the most effective as a leader have been the times that I was the absolute clearest about what needed to be done. And I could communicate to somebody else very clearly and very simply. I mean, it's an elevator message. It's 3 sentences. Where are we going here? When I became president of Duke Power, we had the lowest customer satisfaction we had had in our history. Our reputation, which had been stellar, had been dug through the mud because of the Enron scandals and all of the energy trading and energy marketing. Needless to say, that affected employee morale. It was in the basement. So I just went around and listened, and it became very clear what we needed to do. And it's simple stuff. Vision, you hear the vision word, and it sounds like it's got to be something, complicated and strategic and grand. And it is often pretty basic stuff. Just do it. It's not that far removed from common sense. In Duke, it was get back with it with the customers, get the reliability numbers back up. When you got storms, get the communication better. Don't keep telling people you don't know when the lights are going to be back on. I mean, they can't handle that. They can deal with a longer period of time if they have certainty, but they cannot deal with uncertainty. So we just began across every piece of the sector, the employee sector, the customers, you name it, to get that together again. And it was magic because the people knew how to do the work. And the people knew what needed to be done. The leader doesn't have to come in and make an announcement. People know what's wrong, and they know what works. So if you're able to listen and then translate that into something for the company or for your team, it doesn't matter the level you're leading at. Just translate it into something that makes sense.
Okay, my second question. Oh, I'm Shanika, by the way. Well, I came from the floor for maybe 5 years or so, and then came into the sales positions. To show that I have my true form of potential, what steps can I take to combine the two to show my team that my potential speaks out more than, just computer work?
Boy, that's good. And again, not knowing you personally and what you do exactly, that's not easy to answer except as a generality. So just pardon me for being general with the response. But I mean, I think you show people by doing. I mean, that's really my simple answer. How well you do your job, how effective you are in it. Are you seeing opportunities that stretch you, opportunities that kind of combine what you learned in on the floor with sales? What are you doing that is showing how those things make you a stronger contributor than you would be with only one of them? And I don't know what those opportunities are, so I can't tell you, but I'd bet anything they're there. And if I were you, I'd take every one of them. Any from online? Obviously, they can't speak through the cameras.
Ramon's got the...
I'll be asking questions on behalf of those participating online. We've had over 150 people sign up in virtual. So
Oh, great.
I have a few questions for you. The first one's going to be from Louisa Evans. She asked, what can we do to maintain our culture?
What can we do to maintain our culture? Well, that question's being asked more and more often as there's more and more remote work and companies are worrying about what if everybody doesn't see each other every day. So companies are going to be grappling with that. One thing is to know what's most important about your culture. I mean, recognize, be able to say what it is instead of just our culture as a big amorphous thing. What is it that makes it Southwire? What makes Southwire's culture special? I've heard a lot of people talk about the family ownership and how that matters. So just think about the things that make it special and do all you can to continue that. A culture is not abstract. A culture is company policies. It's the behavior of people. It's the behavior of supervisors. It's how you treat people. It's not vague and abstract. It's very specific. How do you treat an injured employee? How do you treat the family of an employee where there's been a serious or even a fatal injury? What do you do as a company? How does the company respond? What do you do to celebrate a success on a small team or on a company-wide level? Culture is action. Culture is not words. So what you do is you do it. I hope that addresses the question and that you get the gist. That's in a short time. That's probably about the best I can do.
Thank you. The next question comes from a 12 for Life student, Ashlyn. What advice do you have for the younger generation working in manufacturing?
Wow. I hope you've heard if you've been listening, you've heard my best advice for you, which is you hang in with manufacturing and you will do well. That is honestly my best advice. I think we are going to see in this country, and I think partly because of COVID and partly just because of world events, I think we're going to see a resurgence of manufacturing. It's not going to be your granddaddy's manufacturing. It's going to be digitized. It's going to be automated. It's going to be roboticized. It's going to be very different than it used to be. But it is going to be a good place to work and a good place to make a living and a life. So that would be my best advice. Prepare yourself. Educate yourself to do it. Go take community college courses. Get yourself certified in a certain profession. Do whatever you need to do that gets you in that direction.
I do have one more question from an online participant. A question from Katie Bryan. Did you participate in any mentor-mentee partnership during your career? If so, was it a woman or a man mentee or mentor? And did you have a preference or learn something that stuck with your career?
That's another great question, and I have a bit of an idiosyncrasy about that. I believe that the best mentoring relationships form naturally. I don't think that I can be named to be Becky's mentor and all of a sudden have a very trusting, important, impactful relationship with Becky. I think they're self-selected. I have had both men and women mentors. I have never participated in an official mentor-mentee program, But probably my most important mentor early on was the chancellor of the Dallas County Community College District, a really grumpy guy. But he was a fascinating mentor, and he gave the most direct, most hard-hitting feedback I've ever had in my life. And I cringed when I got it, but boy, did I learn from him. One day it was in a board meeting, and he was just, boy, he was losing it up there talking about this particular project I had been working on. And he was talking to the board and saying all these things that were incorrect. And so the general counsel, where is Bert? The sneaky general counsel was sitting next to me, and he had been working on the same project, so I punched him. I said, Robert, do you want to tell him that he's getting this all wrong, or should I do it? He said, you do it. So, yeah. So like an idiot, I'm there going, he ignores me as long as he possibly can. Finally, he has to call me. I'm just making a scene. And so I think in an extremely diplomatic, very effective way, correct things. And he chewed my when the meeting was over. He said nothing. He just nodded. We all went on. The meeting was fine. And when he got me, it was a wonder he didn't take me by my shirt and shake me by the neck. He was so mad. He said, never, ever help me out in a board meeting. He said, if you see me on the branch sawing it off as fast as I can saw it off, don't move. He said, I know things you don't know. And there may be reasons that I am saying what I'm saying. He said, this wasn't the case today, and it wasn't. He was just getting it all wrong. But I understood his logic. He was exactly right. That is not the place for a novice, a tyro like me, to help out. He didn't need my help. And but that's the kind of feedback I got. And if you think you ever forget that, think again. I have never forgotten. I don't ever try to. No, I don't do that at all. So very good lesson. So my male mentor. Some of my best mentors have been women who were peers. It's not surprising that I didn't come of age under a lot of women who were ahead of me because I was in the sort of pioneering group. But I had women peers who were wonderful, and peer mentors can be hugely effective. They get a chance to observe your behavior. They often are very willing to be honest with the feedback that they give you. If you become a supervisor or a leader, you can get people who are your peer leaders to observe you in some situations and give you feedback. Usually you have to ask somebody and kind of make an agreement. Would you be willing to do this for me, and I'll do it for you? I've had some of my very best mentors have been that kind of peer situation.
Thank you. Sorry, I know I had my share of questions in the previous one, but I can't help
Never
myself
enough.
on this one. So, you walked us through your career progression and how different things were when you entered the workforce than what they are today. So I guess my question is, if you were starting out today in the world we're in, would you go at the same path educationally, career-wise, or is there a different path that you might be interested in pursuing?
Well, I'm just so glad I don't have to face that choice. And I'm just as absolutely serious as I can be. Because, I was an English major. I've got a master's in English. Anything y'all want to know about Shakespeare or anything like that, y'all ask me. But as I told Bill Lee when I was hired at Duke, I don't really understand why the electricity doesn't just run out on the ground when you pull the plug. So, and they hired me anyway. So, and that is an absolutely true story. But
It's those wires back there.
yeah, it's the wires. Yeah, now I understand, Charlie, after a few years on the Southwire board. But one of the things I think I would do differently is be sure that I had gained, but I never saw myself leaving the field of education, to tell you the truth. What happened moving into corporate America, moving into the electric utility industry, was completely accidental. And so all that you can make all the plans in the world you want to. Life happens. So I don't know what I would choose to do if I set out to do it, because I didn't do what I chose to do then. I mean, I achieved my career goal by the time I was 35. Well, I mean, I'm not going to just stop. And I'd have been bored to tears if I'd done that for 30 more years. So, you know, things happen. So I don't really know what I would do. I feel pretty sure I would go into something that had a strong technical bent these days. I don't have much question about, even though that's not where I'm drawn naturally, but I think I'd do that.
I'm sure you know that. Yeah. So, Ruth, question for you. You leave a legacy behind. What is that one thing you challenge us as leaders, employees of this organization to move forward?
Boy. Well, I was asked in the earlier session, and I'm going to repeat that because it matters to me, about, I guess, what I felt most proud of in terms of, because this is my last meeting with the Southwire board. And there were really two easy answers. One is the work on sustainability. And again, I nod my head to the family who pushed that as an effort for this company when it was, I mean, everybody was not doing it. And the fact that we made those efforts early, I think has positioned us extremely favorably as a company, not only in areas like diversity, equity, and inclusion, even though that wasn't kind of part of the original way it was imagined, but there's room in that umbrella for a lot of those areas, including diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'm very proud of that work, and I had the great privilege to be the original chair of the Sustainability Committee and chaired it for a lot of years, and there was good support for it and growing support for it. So I'm extremely proud of that because I think it positions this company competitively, extremely favorably. Charlie and I go way, way back. Further, Charlie doesn't want to admit how old he is. I will tell. But Charlie was selling wire and cable to Duke Power when I was the CEO and before I was the CEO. So, and he knows the utility world. He's not in it now. He's doing different work for us. But the desire today to know what's happening with their products, to know the whole life cycle, what's in it, where it came from, everything about it, is growing, and it's only going to continue to grow. We're going to be so much better off than companies who are just waking up to the fact that that matters. So I'm very proud of that work and proud of what it means to be that kind of company. I don't know about you, but I like being part of a company where that's important, where that matters. And I know the next generation of owners find that extremely important. So that's important. The other thing is the work with the governance committee and the work that I did on diversity, equity, and inclusion, both for the company writ large and for the board. So it was a privilege to chair the search committee that brought in a class of 4 new board members that are outstanding board members by any measure. And that's what I care about. I'm not willing to compromise on anything in terms of quality, expertise, competence. And you know what? We don't have to. I want to be in a world where that's not even a question. Why would you even think that I'd have to compromise on quality to have diversity? You don't, not at all. I still remember, I know, when Lori came on the board, and I will not name names here, but we wanted to bring in a financial expert. I think I was the only woman on the board other than owners then. Owners, of course, we have several women owners, but I was the only woman who wasn't an owner. And there was a feeling that there just weren't any female financial experts to be had. And it was just amazing how many were out there. And Guyton, would you say Lori's a pretty good financial expert? She's real good. You just got to know where to look, And it also helps when you can bring in more than one something at a time. don't be surprised if you bring in onesies and twosies of people and it's a revolving door. They are miserable. They feel terrible. There's nobody else that looks like them anywhere in the arena. And it's hard. It is very hostile for people. And Duke used to take people and put them on boards where they would, because we were a company of mainly white men, and so they would get to serve on women's organization boards, the board of the local historically black college, and they got a taste of what it felt like to be the only one of them in the room, and it's a different feeling. So it was a good experience for them. I hope I answered the question. I'm sure I lost track of it somewhere along.
Thank you very much. Can we have a round of applause for this?
Thank you.
As I said, Ruth is not only phenomenal, and obviously, unlike during your thesis presentation, we loved what you had to say. So thank you.
Well, he loved what I had to say. Well, he didn't understand what I had to
Yes.
say. No,
We understood
he loved
it,
how
too.
I said it. Okay,
Yes.
good.
And thanks also to Charlie and Brandon.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
They went easy on me.
Yeah. So they gave me the mic, so I get to talk for a little bit more. And I do want to acknowledge a couple of things. March 5th, 2015, we started this journey. And we should have a picture coming up. This is Ruth Shaw presenting to the Women's Network 8 years ago.
I look better and better.
Kicking off our event, kicking off our very first employee resource group. And I want to acknowledge that today we have 6 employee resource groups. Not only the Women's Network, we have Spectrum, we have Allied, we have the Veterans Network, we have Next Gen, we have Team, is there one that I'm missing? Fuse. Thank you. And of course, I also want to acknowledge Kara Herzog for her hard work in pulling all this together with her team. Can each of you please stand so that we can acknowledge the hard work that you did to bring this together? Thank you. The next thing, I just want to bring up very quickly 2 champions of diversity, equity, inclusion. Winwise, who's one of our senior vice presidents and who has been the executive sponsor for the Women's Network for a number of years. And Jamie Lewis, who has been with the organization, has taken on many roles, is continuing along the path to career success, and who is the champion for the Women's Network. The 2 of you, please come up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great. So I just wanted to share a little bit of background on the Women's Network. It was established in 2014, and really with the idea of creating an inclusive environment with an emphasis on women. It's a great avenue for connection, interacting with one another, networking, and inspiring our current and our future leaders. And although we do have an emphasis on women, we do support inclusivity across the organization. So one thing we do really well is create these safe spaces for employees to come and give feedback on how we can make Southwire a better place, current state and in the future. So I wanted to just talk about a couple of milestones. We have made changes to the maternity and paternity benefits. And then a current project we're working on is nursing mothers' rooms, and not only a standard approach across the enterprise, but making sure it's easily accessible for all women when they need it. So we also do tons of activities throughout the year, and including sponsoring events like this one we have today. So thank you. I'm honored to be here today and be part of the Women's Network. And with that, I'll turn it over to Wynn. There you are.
Thank you, Jamie, and I'm very glad that the Women's Network is inclusive, or else I wouldn't be standing here. So thank you for that. So Bert shared earlier that Ruth has had a tremendous impact on the sustainability efforts of our company. And one particular part of that sustainability and our continuing to remain sustainability and to grow in our efforts is all around giving back. As you all know, we as a company were founded on the whole mindset of giving back when Roy Richards Sr. was dedicated to get electricity to his grandmother's home. That was his goal for founding this company. And since then, as we all know, the efforts of giving back and managing two bottom lines has been at the core of our culture, as Ruth shared today. I think about Alice's House, which Roy's mother founded, a safe haven for children here in Carrollton. I think about the Power Fund, which I was just shared the number of $11 million the company has given to the Power Fund to go back to our employees. And then one particular for me that I personally support is Angel's House in Newnan, Georgia, which is a safe haven for female teenagers. So in the spirit of Women's Network, that's certainly one I wanted to mention. So as we think about giving back and we think about the efforts, and this being Ruth's last board meeting, the Women's Network would like to present a gift to Ruth. So Jamie and I will present this. Ruth, we want to present you with a $10,000 check for you to choose the charity of your choosing, female-focused nonprofit.
Wow.
And offer that up, and we're just thrilled that you're here, and the timing of all of this from 8 years ago, and here we are today. So,
Well, I am never speechless, but I am. My gosh, you guys, that is amazing.
I'm going to take the liberty
Thank
of
you so
inviting
much.
Roy and Rich and Kara up for the picture, please.
Wow. Well, we're going to have a picture, apparently. I better get my junk out of the way here. Yeah, tell us where you want us, and I'm getting behind that check, I'll tell you that. Yeah, let's move the chair, yeah. Wow. I'm blown away, you guys. I mean, this is amazing. Thank you. I mean, thank you's just not enough, but a nonprofit, or do I have to give it all to one?
No, ma'am.
Okay, good. As long as it's a female focused nonprofit, several are going to benefit from this. Thank you so, so much. Nothing closer to my heart. Thank you.
Well, everyone, we wanted to thank you again for a wonderful day. We hope that you enjoy the rest of the afternoon and you think about what you can do during this month to help encourage and support all that we're doing on behalf of women. And don't forget that March 8th is International Women's Day. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.